Hello, my name is Frances Hume and I work for a Scottish charity called Interfaith Scotland. And this charity brings people together from all different faiths, beliefs and cultures throughout Scotland. We bring people together to make friends, to understand one another better and to overcome some of the negative stereotypes and prejudice that people might have with others who are different from themselves. Now, we do this through shared conversations, often on important topics such as climate change, things that we can work together in order to make the world a better place for everyone. We have an education programme in schools where we bring our volunteers from all different faiths to talk with pupils so they can get to know people of different faiths. And we also have a training programme for diversity and religious equality for all different organisations. Now, every November we have a special week called Scottish Interfaith Week. And during that week, at least 80 events take place all over Scotland, bringing our communities together. These can be events of celebration of our different cultures through music, dancing, a variety of activities, often including food from many different cultures and countries. Also, these events can take place in schools, community centres, universities, and different organisations and charities also put on events as well. So we really encourage lots of people to get involved in Scottish Interfaith Week. Now today you will be seeing the Faces of Faith exhibition, and this exhibition was created for Scottish Interfaith Week 2022. And this exhibition showcases the stories of 16 different people of different faiths. Now, we believe that freedom of religion and belief is a key part of Scottish society today. But few of us are aware of how many beliefs and religions are practiced throughout Scotland, or the diversity within those different religions. So through these stories of 16 people, we explore the joys, challenges and complexities of living as a person of faith in Scotland, and the impact that these communities have had on a local, national and international level. Our many religious communities may be diverse in culture and practice, but the positive values are shared across faiths. That of working towards a better future for Scotland and the wider world. So in these photographs, we hope you see not the photos of strangers, but of friends that we came to know. Thank you.
Sujan, Buddhist. Originally from a Hindu family in Nepal, Sujan spent 8 years training to be a Theravada Buddhist monk in Thailand before he came to the UK. Sujan is proud of the orange robes that he wears to represent his faith and beliefs. He stands out in any crowd, particularly in Aberdeen where he now lives. While exploring the city, he received many comments on his appearance, some kind and curious, and others not so kind and even negative. He decided that in order to answer people's questions and overcome the negative comments, he would walk around Aberdeen and talk to the locals so they could get to know him and see him as part of their city too. Sujan helps people in his local community. He cooks food and distributes food parcels with the Instant Neighbour charity, providing food to people experiencing homelessness and those living in poverty. The first time Sujan felt welcome in the city was when a homeless man approached him on the street and warmly thanked him for his support. Sujan has also been offering meditation sessions to those facing difficulties in their lives via the NHS Grampian Multicultural Health and Wellbeing Forum, including members of the public and NHS staff. Sujan created and runs the Varapunya Centre, a temple and place for meditation in Aberdeen, which has been an important aspect of Sujan's work. He leads meditations and rituals that anyone is welcome to take part in. Over the first 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, Sujan offered free meditation sessions regularly and gave uplifting talks to hundreds of people every night online. When someone finds peace or happiness through a Buddhist practice that Sujan has taught them, it brings him joy. Sujan's hope for the future is that everyone will be accepted for who they are and will be valued for their presence, wherever they are in the world and whatever they believe. Samiha, Muslim. Originally from Kenya, Samiha's faith as a Muslim has motivated her work and volunteering for many years. When she was at school, she saw many of her classmates being left behind by the education system, while others were provided with every opportunity to do well. Seeing this inequality at the age of 12, she entered a proposal into a business competition at school for an enterprise which actively supports young people from disadvantaged backgrounds to learn life skills. When the first COVID-19 lockdown began, Samiha was a recent graduate voluntarily tutoring children in kinship care. She organised video call accounts for each child so they could continue with tutoring online. But many of them stopped receiving homework from school. When she asked their teachers about this, they said the children were not academic enough and were unlikely to do the work from home. This made Samiha very angry. Soon afterwards, by amazing coincidence, she found the business proposal she'd made at school while clearing out a cupboard. And she decided to make the idea a reality. She set up a social enterprise called Ubuntu, which supports hundreds of children and their families across Glasgow and Lanarkshire. Ubuntu offers free workshops in life skills such as budgeting, communicating, and working with people of different backgrounds. Uniquely, instead of inviting professionals from charities and businesses to run workshops, Samiha encourages local community members to share their lived experience with the young people. Samiha believes it takes a community to build a school and to educate a child. The name Ubuntu is an African philosophy which translates as I am because we are. The enterprise recently won the Young Scot Enhancing Education Award 2022. Samiha holds a Scottish Young Achiever of the Year award and was recently in the running for Scotswoman of the Year. All this while continuing with her day job as Chief of Staff in the UK Parliament. Samiha's hope for the future is that schools in Scotland develop a holistic approach to education and that no young person is left behind because of their background. Neil, Druid and Pagan. Neil's path to paganism began in a former mining town in the East Midlands in the 1990s. His family worked in the pits for generations, and after mining in the area ended, the land was turned into parks and trails, and Neil spent a lot of time exploring nature. One day, Neil had an experience in a grove of silver birch trees. He realised that language wasn't just for humans, but that all of nature speaks if listened to closely. Through the internet, Neil found others who'd similar experiences who'd become pagans. After some time, Neil became an animist druid, someone who connects with the natural world and recognises spirits in both human and non-human communities. Photography is a key way for Neil to practice his beliefs.
Sometimes he wakes up before sunrise and drives outside of Glasgow to the Scottish countryside. There he spends hours taking photos of landscapes and nature. His photographs have won over 180 awards and been exhibited throughout Scotland. Neil is proud to be the vice moderator of the Faith Communities Forum, which represents the UK's diverse faith communities and helps him to form a unified voice on social issues and legislation. Neil believes it is the first time any Druid or pagan has held a role at a national level in interfaith work. The Druid Network, which Neil has been part of since the 1990s, successfully campaigned for Druidry to be recognised as a religion by the Charity Commission in England and Wales in 2010. While most religions believe in a God separate to nature, the Druid Network believe that nature is divine. Neil's hope for the future is for the climate crisis to unify people of all beliefs, and that together meaningful change will be possible to protect the earth. Srihari, Hindu. For nearly 20 years, Srihari has worked as an NHS surgeon. He arrived in Scotland as a trainee doctor in the early 2000s and now works as a consultant general surgeon specialising in endoscopy and bowel cancer at Borders General Hospital. Originally from a Hindu family in India, Srihari's parents encouraged him to learn the scriptures from a young age in their original language called Sanskrit. When he arrived in Scotland, he wanted to find a place for worship, but there were not many Hindu temples at the time. He went along to the Hindu Temple of Scotland in 2011, where he joined in with singing and reciting hymns. People noticed that he was good at Sanskrit, and an attendee at the temple asked him to be their temple's priest. Since that day, Srihari has offered his services to the Hindu Temple of Scotland and its devotees. In Hinduism, there is no requirement to attend the temple to pray, but people go there to offer prayers together as a community, stay in touch with their culture and traditions, and seek blessings from the gods and the priest. Srihari's favourite part of being a priest is helping people to offer prayers and wishes to the gods, often about important worries or hopes in their lives. Srihari has introduced new services, including rituals and practices, to Hindu communities across the country. One of the projects Srihari led through the temple was recognised as the best community integration project in Scotland in 2012. Srihari is also a board member of Interfaith Scotland and an interfaith chaplain at the University of Glasgow and a member of the Scottish Religious Leaders Forum. Srihari is passionate about raising awareness of Scotland's religious and cultural diversity. He believes that we can gain a great understanding of the lives of others through interfaith dialogue. Srihari's hope for the future is that Scotland's religious and cultural diversity will be recognised and celebrated. Mala, Catholic Christian. Mala arrived in the UK in 2017, bringing with her 15 years' experience as a politician and over 40 years in community development. She faced discrimination when she arrived in Scotland, but found strength in her faith and commitment to serving the community. Mala was raised Hindu, but was encouraged to respect all faiths. Her mother's altar included statues from other religions, including Buddha, Ganesh and Jesus. When Mala married in the early 1990s, her mother-in-law requested that she convert to Catholicism when she felt ready.
After moving to Glasgow, she regularly attended both a temple and a church. While passing St Mungo's Church one day, she looked up at the statue of Mother Mary and was overcome with a feeling like a lightning strike. She immediately went inside and arranged her baptism, which took place on Easter Sunday 2019. Supporting the local community is a key part of Mala's faith and values. In Malaysia, she had been the founder and president of the Social, Economic and Women's Welfare Association, which provided support to women experiencing social exclusion. Mala has been volunteering with various organisations in Scotland since she arrived. She is currently a trustee for the board of Interfaith Glasgow and for the board of a network which supports asylum seekers, refugees, migrants and black and minority ethnic communities in Glasgow. For her research for a food security project run by the network, she was awarded an Ethnic Minority Impact Award. Mala's son Sean won Volunteer of the Year at the Scottish Charity Awards in 2021. While Mala has experienced discrimination in Scotland, she is determined to use her skills and expertise to make it a better and more welcoming place for all. Mala's hope for the future is to start an organisation to unite people of different faiths through cultural and traditional activities. Anish, Hindu. Anish is a young Hindu from Aberdeen, currently studying medicine at university. Like many young people, he's concerned about poverty and the climate crisis. He also contacted his local MP and asked for the UK to increase its efforts on vaccine equity, which means that vaccines should be given to all countries based on their needs. The next day, the MP raised the issue in Parliament. As a Hindu, Anish wears the sacred ash, known as vibhuti, on his forehead, which he applies every day after praying. Having grown up with family and friends who wore vibhuti, Anish was unprepared for the reactions of his classmates and teachers when he started wearing it to school in Primary 4. He was asked a lot of questions and even teased by some. One boy asked him why he was wearing toothpaste on his head. While seeking advice, Anish's grandfather explained to him the importance of wearing the ash. Vibhuti provides energy to destroy negative thoughts and focus on positive ones, and it ensures that the wearer can connect with the divine. He said the vibhuti symbolises that everyone comes from the earth and will return to the earth. With this new understanding, Anish felt more prepared to talk about his faith with others. In recent years, he has shared his experience as a young Hindu in Scotland at interfaith dialogue events across the country. Through conversations with people of other beliefs, Anish has noticed the similarities in religious views about the environment. In Hinduism, caring and protecting Bhumi Devi, which is Mother Earth, is considered a religious duty that forms a part of a Hindu lifestyle. Anish believes that while religion is often seen as something from the past, it can be used to shape a better future. While Anish is studying medicine, he is taking his commitment to equality and the environment with him. He believes that while medicine has advanced greatly, we live on a polluted planet where inequality in healthcare is a reality for too many people. When asked about his future in activism, Anish spoke about a recent conversation with an MP who told him it would never be too late to pursue a career in politics after medicine. Alongside his studies, Anish is part of the One campaign, a youth advocacy group focused on getting rid of poverty. He is keen to engage in activism throughout university and beyond. Anish's hope for the future is that we move beyond tolerance and strive for a world where everyone can live together freely. Lindsay, Muslim. Lindsay was raised in Glasgow's West End by an atheist father and a mother who believed in God but was not religious. Her parents regularly took her to visit temples, churches and mosques and encouraged her to be accepting of everyone. When Lindsay later fell in love with Ayub, a Muslim man from Ivory Coast in Africa, her family accepted him warmly. Family members in both Scotland and the Ivory Coast celebrated on the day the couple got married. Lindsay's decision to revert to Islam came several years after she met Ayub. She had long since fallen for Ayub's strong faith and compassion for God's creation. One day, Lindsay and Ayub found a dying bumblebee on the side of the road. Ayub reached down to pick it up, and Lindsay said, "That'll sting you." He picked it up anyway and placed the bee in a flower. He reassured her, everything has a right to die in beauty. Lindsay had struggled with mental health and other issues for years, but was moved by the peace Ayub had from his faith. A peace she found too when she recited the Shahada, a single sentence declaring her belief in the oneness of God and in Muhammad as God's messenger. But when Lindsay began wearing a headscarf called a hijab in public, worn by many Muslim women, she received racist and Islamophobic abuse. This fueled Lindsay's commitment to equality and the need for change. Instead of backing down, she raised her voice. Lindsay is now the chair of Interfaith Scotland and works for a charity helping Muslims to engage in British media and politics. Lindsay is a strong advocate for Muslim inclusion, but sometimes feels conflicted. As a white Muslim, she is often chosen to represent the whole community at meetings with politicians and public and third sector officials. She has strong concerns that many ethnic minority communities are being left out of important conversations. There are many changes Lindsay would like to see in society, including more intersectional voices from faith communities being heard. She also wants the Scottish Government to take a lead in tackling faith-based discrimination and hate. Lindsay's hope for the future is for the voices of faith communities to be heard and respected at all levels of Scottish society. Sharondeep, Sikh. Growing up in the Sikh faith inspired Sharondeep to become a doctor, and it is also the reason he is passionate about volunteering. For Sharondeep, using his skills and energy to help others is an important way to put the Sikh faith into action. Sharondeep and his older brother, Charandeep, have been viewed as leaders and organisers in the Scottish Sikh community for years. That is why, on a cold Saturday morning in March 2020, sitting in pyjamas in their Glasgow home, both of their phones began to ring. Friends of the brothers were keen to know how they could help the community as the COVID-19 pandemic took hold. The brothers decided to start the Sikh Food Bank. The brothers gathered volunteers from the Sikh community and worked with the local Baptist church at Queen's Park to operate the food bank. People of all ages and backgrounds volunteered to help. Young professionals on furlough, pensioners, parents with their children, and even 2 Royal Air Force pilots on leave. Over 100,000 food parcels were given to people who were finding it difficult to get food due to poverty and isolation. Sharondeep and his team thought it was important to meet the needs of the people they were helping and really care about them. Those receiving food parcels were asked about their favourite foods and what their needs were, and over time they developed friendships with the volunteers. These days, the cost of living crisis is putting pressure on people across Scotland who are facing difficulty paying for food. Sharondeep believes that humanity is able to get rid of poverty and inequality. He says that all humans have a divine spark within them, the potential to be change makers, and that by using our skills and strengths, we can achieve incredible things together. Sharondeep's hope for the future is for humanity to respond collectively in times of crisis and compassionately support those in need. Bill, Christian. Bill is a member of the Church of Scotland and has 2 gay children. When Bill's child Kirsty came out as non-binary, he was happy for them. When his son Stephen came out as gay, he was surprised. It was the first time he realised a person could have 2 LGBT+ children. He embraced them both with a parent's love and became a strong supporter of including LGBT+ people in an equal way. Bill had been an active member of his local church in Glasgow since 2006 and a church elder since 2011. When he learnt about affirming churches, ones which actively accept LGBT+ people, he wanted his church to apply for affirmation status. After many respectful conversations with the congregation, the decision was made for the church not to become an affirming one. The minister at the time encouraged Bill to go to a church where he felt most drawn. There was an affirming church down the road, Langside Parish Church, and he soon became a member. Neither of his children attend church, but Bill prefers being part of a congregation which shares his values. For years, Bill marched with other churches in LGBT+ pride parades. It was only after joining Langside that he finally marched with members of his own congregation. After a vote at the Church of Scotland's General Assembly in 2022, the church announced that ministers could conduct same-sex ceremonies. The vote was won 274 to 136. Those ministers who wished to perform these ceremonies could apply to do so. Bill is happy to see change occurring within his own faith community, but he believes that there is a long way to go to achieve equality. He would like to see more ministers being vocal about actively including LGBT+ people and applying for their congregations to become affirming ones. Bill's hope for the future is for more churches to actively welcome and include people of all genders and sexualities. Henry, Jewish. Henry arrived in Glasgow as a refugee fleeing Nazi Germany in 1939. He was 15 years old, alone, and did not speak English. Henry's mother had secured him a place on the Kindertransport, a humanitarian aid programme transporting Jewish children from Germany to the UK before the outbreak of World War II. Henry was warmly welcomed into the home of Mrs. Hurwitz, a member of the local Jewish community, and started school. A year later, Henry was charged with corresponding with the enemy for trying to send a letter to his parents informing them of his well-being. He was suspected of being a spy and was sent to a prison camp on the Isle of Man despite being too young. After several tribunals, Henry was released. He returned to Glasgow and worked as a chef for high-end restaurants, following in the footsteps of his grandparents who had run a successful catering business. In 1941, Henry's father died of a heart attack
during an air raid in Germany. 2 years after the war, Henry's mother was able to join him in Scotland. Henry met and fell in love with Ingrid, who'd also come to Glasgow by Kindertransport and lost many of her own family and friends in the Holocaust. The couple soon married and had 2 daughters. They lived busy lives running a catering business and raising a family. But they both knew they needed to share their stories. Together, Henry and Ingrid made it their life's work in retirement to educate others, particularly young people, about the Holocaust and where unchallenged prejudice and discrimination can lead. They educated hundreds of school pupils and spoke to thousands at events across the country. Ingrid received an award for her services to Holocaust education, and Henry was awarded an MBE for his work with limbless veterans. Henry sadly lost Ingrid in 2020 after 75 years of marriage. His Glasgow flat is adorned with photos of Ingrid, their daughters and grandchildren. On a living room shelf stands a black and white photo of a teenage Henry in a bow tie with his parents. Next to it sits a photo of 2 of his great-grandchildren. To this day, at the age of 99, Henry continues to provide his first-hand testimony of being a Holocaust refugee and raising awareness of the current refugee crisis. He's keen to highlight how millions of children continue to be uprooted from their homes in wars and conflicts around the world today, most recently in Ukraine. Henry's hope for the future is for all young children and young people to learn about the dangers of discrimination and to take responsibility for all challenging intolerance and prejudice. Hayley, Jewish. Hayley moved from California to Scotland over 10 years ago to study religion. She was raised in a secular interfaith family, but became more observant in Judaism as she studied her own religion and others in depth. The Jewish community in Scotland is small, but over the years, Hayley has supported building the community up. Living a traditional Jewish life is very important to Hayley, including celebrating religious holidays, keeping kosher, and pursuing the Jewish concept of tikkun olam. The concept is designed by acts intended to repair the world and strive for social justice. Coming from the United States of America, where universal healthcare does not exist, Hayley has been passionate about the National Health Service since she moved to Scotland. She believes everyone deserves access to free, quality healthcare. There is a Jewish teaching that states, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you free to neglect it." In this way, Hayley feels it is her duty to help others. In 2014, Hayley took a Master's in Public Health with the goal of one day working for the NHS. After graduation, she was hired for a dream role at a charity improving access to paediatric surgery for children around the world. Hayley loved her job, but when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, she felt a strong sense of duty to support the NHS, and she started a new job on NHS Lothian's health protection team. As an epidemiologist, she assessed emerging trends in the outbreak of the pandemic, particularly in settings like prisons, schools, care homes and university halls. Hayley was proud to be part of Scotland's response effort to the pandemic. She later moved to an advanced healthcare scientist role at Public Health Scotland. There she helped produce the high-level COVID data shown on the news every morning. The workload was intense, but Hayley was inspired by the skill and expertise of the NHS workforce. Today, Hayley is working for one of the teams tackling Scotland's drug death crisis and working to reduce drug harms. Hayley believes that public health care must be managed and developed well to ensure everyone receives equal support and care. Hayley's hope for the future
is for Scotland to be a fairer and healthier place for everyone to live. Trishna, Sikh. Above a crisp factory in a Glasgow tenement flat in the 1950s, a few Sikh families, including Trishna's, started the first Gurdwara in Scotland, which is a place of worship for Sikhs. The atmosphere in the Sikh Gurdwara was relaxed. One of Trishna's favourite memories is running downstairs and buying bags of broken crisps to share with other children at the Gurdwara. As the Sikh community grew, they purchased a bigger building and formalised the worship practices. Trishna later married and had children. Sadly, she lost her son in a road accident in 1984. In her sorrow, she searched for meaning in the scriptures. She found a sense of peace through the teachings, but she also discovered something she'd never been told before. The founder of the Sikh faith, Guru Nanak, had spoken up for the equality of women and men in 15th century India. After learning this, Trishna realised that many of the practices in her community that she disagreed with were cultural and not religious. This included Sikh women using a veil to cover their faces in the company of men older than their husbands. Trishna began sharing her knowledge with other women in the community. In 1989, she took her efforts further by founding Sikh Sanjog, a Scottish charity aimed at supporting isolated Sikh women to make friends, gain qualifications and secure employment. Trishna is proud of the change she has witnessed in the community since the charity was set up. Now she sees her friends' granddaughters and great-granddaughters living their own lives and having careers. Many of the Sikh women Trishna grew up with could not read or write. While exploring ways to develop a social business with Sikh women at the forefront, the staff at Sikh Sanjog realised the key skills the women shared. Every day, a group of 4 or 5 Sikh women could make a 3-course meal for over 500 people in under 5 hours. This incredible feat is carried out as part of the Sikh practice known as langar, a free community meal made in the Gurdwara's kitchen. Recognising these skills, Sikh Sanjog opened a social enterprise called Punjabi Dunction in 2008. The business serves home-cooked Punjabi food and empowers minority ethnic women to learn literacy, numeracy, communication, social and customer care skills. Having left school with no qualifications, Trishna returned to education at the age of 51. She studied a degree in community learning and development at Glasgow University. In recognition of her services to the community, Trishna became the first Sikh woman in Scotland to receive an OBE in 2014. Her memoir, A Silent Voice Speaks, was published in 2022, reflecting on her life as a Sikh woman in Glasgow. Trishna's hope for the future is for gender inequality within faith communities to be addressed and challenged. Isadora, Baha'i. Isadora is involved in providing humanitarian aid to countries facing poverty, disaster and conflict through her role at Care International. She has worked with communities in Afghanistan, Syria, South Sudan and the Congo. Isadora works for equality for women and men within communities going through crises. During a particularly dangerous time during the Syrian war, Isadora worked on the border between Turkey and Syria. The situation was too dangerous for Isadora's team to enter the country, and she was forced to try to understand the challenges facing Syrian women from the outside. Through this experience, Isadora created a tool called Rapid Gender Analysis, which has since been used in more than 70 countries. The tool provides information about the different needs, capacities, and coping strategies of women, men, boys, and girls in a crisis situation. It is used by humanitarians all around the world.
Isadora shared about her time with a group of South Sudanese refugee women in northern Uganda. The women had been secluded to an area of a refugee camp called Village 6. There they empowered themselves, creating a group for women of all Christian denominations to meet, talk, and take action in things like adult education and on preventing domestic violence. The women had even constructed their own Catholic church. Isadora grew up in a Scottish Chinese family in Fife. Her parents were not religious, but sent her to Sunday school every week. As a young adult, she spoke with people from many faith backgrounds. While living in the Democratic Republic of Congo, she discovered the Baha'i faith and has been a member ever since. The Baha'i teachings state that through gender equality, the world will be a more peaceful and harmonious place. Isadora believes the world has a long way to go to achieve gender equality, but that everyone has a responsibility to make it happen. Isadora's hope for the future is to see a world with more vibrant, equal and peaceful communities. Nicola, Buddhist. Nicola is a Scottish mum of 3 and has been a Buddhist for over 25 years. As a young adult, she was curious about Buddhism, and at the age of 21, she visited Kagyu Samiling Monastery and Tibetan Centre, which is located along the River Esk in Scotland. She felt drawn to learn more about Tibetan Buddhism after listening to a public talk by the abbot, Lama Yeshe Losal Rinpoche. Samiling was the first Tibetan Buddhist centre established in the West when it was founded in 1967. Over 60 people live in Samiling, including monks, nuns and volunteers. You don't have to be Buddhist to live there, but residents are expected to live by certain values. The centre offers retreats and training in Buddhist philosophy and meditation. Nicola learns a lot from her teachers at Samiling, and her family continues to be supportive of her chosen path. Nicola's Buddhist practice is a very important part of her daily life. At the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, Nicola participated in a 6-month online retreat with her teacher, Drupon Ken Rinpoche. The experience was hugely transformative, and Nicola felt even more inspired to tame her mind in order to develop kindness and compassion for all. Nicola's faith helps her to focus on the values she wishes her children to learn. She teaches them about the importance of being kind to others and being kind to themselves. The Buddhist community in Scotland is small, and sometimes people are surprised to learn about Nicola's faith. Many of the Buddhist monks and nuns in Scotland wear bright orange or red robes, but for Nicola, her faith is not as visible. Through her role as board member of Interfaith Scotland, Nicola provides a voice for Scotland's Buddhist community. Making the community visible is important to Nicola, and she's happy to talk about her beliefs with others. Nicola feels that she does not experience as much conflict or prejudice for practicing her faith in Scotland as people from other faiths may do, and she's keen to be part of the solution. She would like to see a more tolerant and open society where people stand up for the rights of others. Nicola's hope for the future is that people remain tolerant and open to others throughout the many crises faced by society. Umutezi, Christian. Umutezi was born to a single mother in Rwanda in the 1980s, during a time of increasing political unrest. She lived with her mother and grandparents in a mountain village and was the second eldest of 4 children. The country's majority Hutu population and minority Tutsi population were in constant conflict with each other at the time. A conflict which had been heavily influenced by Europeans who had settled there. When the ruling Hutu president died in a plane crash in 1994, tensions between the groups turned into violence. Umutezi was 12 years old and saw terrible things in the days that followed. More than 1 million people died in the 100 days of the Rwandan genocide, mostly Tutsis, but also moderate Hutus. Around 2 million Rwandans fled the country during or immediately after the genocide. With her mother and siblings, Umutezi fled towards the Democratic Republic of Congo. Her eldest sister was lost in the initial days of the genocide, and her mother was killed on the journey out of Rwanda. Umutezi was left to care for her 3 younger siblings, aged 7, 4 and 6 months old. They walked for 3 months until they reached the Congo. Sadly, her brother died of malnutrition along the way. For 5 years, Umutezi protected her sisters while they lived in the jungle in a state of constant fear and hunger. The Congo was experiencing its own conflict, and rebels roamed the jungle, inflicting physical and sexual violence on those they encountered. After years of suffering, Umutezi decided that if she was going to die, she would die in her own country. She returned to Rwanda with her sisters and discovered that 40 of their relatives had died in the genocide. Umutezi began putting her life back together and made friends with a German researcher who sponsored her to complete a nursing degree. In 2012, Umutezi met Ian, a Scottish man working in Rwanda. They bonded over a love of music and later got married. She moved to Scotland in 2015 and they had 2 daughters together. Umutezi is happy in Scotland and feels ready to share her story. She hopes it will help others who have experienced similar trauma to know they are not alone. Throughout her life, Umutezi's Christian faith has supported her. She has always felt that someone was watching over her, giving her the strength to carry on. Umutezi's hope for the future is to see people happy and living in peace, and for humanity to learn from the mistakes of the past. Astrid, Brahma Kumaris. Astrid has lived in the Brahma Kumaris Centre in Aberdeen for over 20 years, leading events and playing an active role in the interfaith community. She also works in medicine and is the founder and director of a busy occupational health clinic in the city. Meditation plays an important part of Astrid's daily life and helps her to find balance. From a young age, Astrid felt drawn to spirituality. Her search began with Buddhism, in which she enjoyed the opportunity to better herself through seeking higher spiritual awareness. She also had spiritual experiences, particularly in places of worship like churches, where she would see auras. For years, Astrid attended Hatha yoga classes. During one session, while holding a pose and breathing deeply, her mind wandered into a space she had not been before, a space that was peaceful, warm, accepting and loving. One day, while working in a hospital and waiting for results, Astrid picked up a newspaper and saw an advert for a talk at the University of Aberdeen about Raja Yoga meditation. She did not know what Raja meant, but she knew she liked yoga. She was not particularly interested in meditation, which she tried before and had little impact on her. The talk was given by the Brahma Kumaris, a worldwide spiritual movement mainly led by women and founded in the 1930s. A key focus of the Brahma Kumaris faith is using Raja Yoga to reach a higher level of awareness. For the Brahma Kumaris, the word yoga means to create the highest connection with the divine. Astrid was inspired by the talk and began attending more Raja Yoga classes run by the centre in Aberdeen. Over time, she developed a greater understanding of herself and how to enter a spiritual space. She was later invited to live at the centre full-time. A typical day for Astrid starts with meditation at 4 o'clock in the morning, followed by a study class at 6 o'clock, where students of the Brahma Kumaris come together for meditation and reflection. She then heads to work. Meditation helps Astrid to feel recharged and focused, supporting her throughout her busy day, working as a physician and running the centre. Through both roles, she helps others to find balance and improve their physical and mental health. Astrid's hope for the future is for humanity to unite in peace, harmony, respect and cooperation.